welcome back to the Why So Series podcast, and we are back on our road to Infinity War series, and this time we are recapping the first Guardians of the Galaxy for 2014. A group of intergalactic criminals are forced to work together to stop a fanatical warrior from taking control of the universe. Full disclosure, this was my favorite Marvel movie for a long time, up until basically Civil War and Black Panther. I love this film so much, and I was so excited to watch it. I've seen it, like, out of all the Marvel films, I've seen this one more than any other Marvel movie. I just love it so much. But we'll get everybody else's opinion first. Devin's not with us today, so it's just me, Mike, and Big Mike. So Big Mike, did you watch this film when it came out? And actually, a better question, because I already know the answer, but I figured I'll ask it to prove a point. Mike and Big Mike, before Guardians of the Galaxy came out, have you ever even heard of any of these characters?
Not at all.
Same. Actually, yeah, I did not know about him.
Yeah, so when this first came out, Big Mike, did you see it in the theaters, or did you just see it recently for the first time?
No, I think this movie was at least the first that I vividly remember seeing in the theaters, at least of the movies that we've seen so far. But I definitely saw it in the theaters, and I'm with you. Like, this is still my favorite Marvel movie. It ticks all the boxes for me. It's got all the qualities that I like in a movie, and especially an MCU movie. So I'm with you. This is my favorite one.
Mike, did you see this in the theater when it first came out?
Yeah, I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I think I saw it a few times, and I agree with both of you. This movie's phenomenal, and I can tell you, I remember people being confused about this movie. People were saying that they weren't sure if this movie was going to do well because, and I quote, of the tree and the talking raccoon.
Yeah, that's what I always say.
And I remember even me and Mike have a friend, Tom, who was one of those guys, and he didn't see it in theaters, and I had to basically force him to watch it in our dorm one day. And he, after the movie was over, he was like, "Wow, I cannot believe that I did not see that in theaters. This movie was great."
Shout out to Tom, you're a bitch.
Yeah, we call Tom a bitch all the time. But yeah, this movie was very it was. I remember this was quote. It was like a risk for Marvel, and they took it, and it was very successful, and it did really well, and it was great. It turned out awesome.
But even more than that, so they took a lot of this was a risk. So one, they took characters that nobody heard of, literally F level characters, like not A level, B level, or C level, like literally F level characters that only the most hardcore comic book fans have ever heard of or knew about in any way, with the exception of Thanos, who was kind of a supporting role in this, just like an ancillary role in this film. But all the main characters nobody's really ever heard of. Not only that, but they gave James Gunn this film, which, you know, James Gunn now has got a name after the two Marvel movies, both movies. But before this, his best film was Slither, which
he made the live action Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah, no. You're thinking about somebody else. He wrote. He was a writer for that movie.
Oh.
The biggest film he ever directed was Slither, which was a good. It was a good film, but you know, it's not Guardians of the Galaxy or any type of MCU film. And so then they gave him a $180 million budget. However, they found out that this film went way over budget. It ended up coming in at $230 million, and Marvel had to okay him when he came back and said, you know, I can't make the film that I want to make with $180 million. I'm going to need more money to do this. And for a guy who had no track record with some characters that nobody's ever heard of, Marvel still had faith in him, gave him the money, and he made this, which grossed $773 million. So the idea that a movie with a talking raccoon and a tree could gross $750 million is absurd. So let's just start from the beginning. I thought that I always say that the scene. By the way, just because I have to do this every week, a movie with a talking raccoon and a tree made more money than Justice League. Just so you guys know that.
All right.
Just so you know. More money than Justice League.
I think Justice League has taken its beating.
With Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman. And The Flash. There's that. I think the opening scene is still one of the most emotional scenes in all the MCU films.
Oh, true.
And it's still I know almost every line of this film, and I know exactly what's going to happen, and it still gets me every time. So I guess we'll take it back to when you originally saw this film. What kind of stood out to you guys, starting with Big Mike, then Mike? What kind of stood out to you guys about what stood out overall about this movie that made you like it so much, and not getting into specifics?
I don't know. Obviously when I first saw it, like I said, I had no idea what the characters were. I saw the previews and it looked like it was going to be really funny. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. But just like, I've said it before on this podcast, I consider myself an aspiring Chris Pratt. So like just seeing him and the humor that he brings, but while still like maintaining like a really, really, like he's just a really, really good actor. Like he made this whole movie for me. The dynamic between all the characters, it even though they like just met, it's like they were like brothers and sisters, just like bickering and fighting with each other all the time. Like the chemistry was just there for all of the characters, and then I think that was what really made it for me.
For me, I remember when it first came out and I saw the trailer and I was just like, all right, I have no idea what to expect with this movie, but I'm excited. Like I'm going to see it and I'm very curious as to what's going to happen. And I remember like the very first scene of the movie where Peter Quill's in the hospital as a child, and then the scene that follows immediately after that, very different tone. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this is very different. And like I said, I'm a big, like Marvel, I feel like their biggest challenge is always keeping it a little different because like there's so many movies at this point, and I know some of them have been critiqued as just following that formula, and sometimes it's hard for them to get out of that. And I think that with this film, they were able to do that, and it was a very different experience for a lot of people. And we had, just things that no one would ever, think did well, and they did so well. And I think other movies started trying things similar, and I think that's I think a lot of people think that this is why we got a Suicide Squad movie, even though that turned out to be horrible.
That was terrible.
It was so bad.
This is it. That's exactly.
I think also for me, I think it really appealed to like more of the casual viewer than any other movie that we've seen before, which is me. Like I've never read any of the comic books or anything like that. So seeing a movie like this that really levels the playing field because nobody knows anything about it.
Yeah.
Was kind of cool because you didn't walk out of the theater with everyone saying like, oh, like the comic was so much better. Like I wish they stayed true to the comic, because everyone's like, nah, that was just a dope ass film. Like I just really enjoyed watching that movie.
And I agree with that as well. And I'm a testament to that because I read a lot of comic books and I never came across the Guardians of the Galaxy, didn't know who they were until the trailer came out. But also, I gotta praise James Gunn a little bit here because his attention to detail and all of the just the way he made this film is so amazing and different. And I remember like when I watched some videos of behind the scenes stuff and I saw that like he had Vin Diesel had one line, but it's not like they took that one line and they just copied for every line that Groot had. He had he recorded every single I am Groot, and he did it in all these different languages so that instead of having shitty subtitles or city voiceovers, however they do it for like international films. You know how you always see those like translations of films that were dubbed and they're always like translated wrong. Other people around the world got to experience it the way that we got to, at least for the Groot scenes. And I also want to remind everyone that when Vin Diesel filmed this movie, I like Vin Diesel. I don't know about you guys. I enjoy the fast movies, and that's what.
Yeah, I love Vin Diesel in the fast films.
He was fresh off of a recent Fast movie, and that was the movie where he lost his best friend and brother Paul Walker, and he said that filming Guardians of the Galaxy, he was in a rough place after his friend died, and he just was struggling a little bit, and he came out and said filming Guardians of the Galaxy with this cast and crew and with Disney and Marvel, it was really really helped me out, and it did him wonders, and that always made me feel a little good just about the whole Guardians franchise, family, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, what stood out for me is they finally explored Marvel Cosmic. My favorite characters in the Marvel comic books are the Fantastic Four, and they opened the Marvel Cosmic Universe in the comic books. And because we couldn't have them in the MCU, hopefully until now, going forward, it was interesting to see who they used as the way to introduce this whole other like big universe into what we know as generally just the Avengers and Iron Man and those types of characters. So they took the Guardians of the Galaxy to kind of use them as a proxy to open us up to this much, much larger world. And you see it right in the beginning. So when the film starts, after Star-Lord gets abducted, you go to this planet, what the hell's the planet called? Morag. And you go to the planet Morag where and you see that there's the orb. And we come to find out that the Power Stone, Infinity Stone, is in the orb. But they did a great job of showing you like how big the world is, because later when you're with the Collector, he explains that he tells you how the Power Stone works. And he basically said, I actually wrote down this quote. He said, before creation, there were 6 singularities. Then the Big Bang happened, and the singularities were forged into stones that could only be controlled by beings of great strength. And then they show you a clip of Esau and the Searcher, who is a Celestial, which is like this ridiculously, like, it's incredible.
It's the big dude with, like, the 8 circles on his mask with the Power Stone, and he, like, destroyed the planet. Was that him?
Yeah, that's Esau and the Searcher. He's a Celestial. And the Celestial is like a premortal race of beings. It's like an entity. It's like this force of nature, and they're ridiculously powerful. Like, they're strong enough to manipulate and create matter on a molecular level. So they can, like, basically create and destroy life. So you see, and you also see another ode to the Celestial in the planet Nowhere, which is inside of Celestial's head or brain. So basically they show you a clip of Esau and the Searcher, like, using the Power Stone. He used to hold the Power Stone and destroying a planet. And the Power Stone got lost out of his weapon, and that's how it ended up on Morag, where Peter Quill found it. And so that just brings like all these other things that just people like normal comic book fans is just like, or just normal moviegoers are like, this is a much larger universe than just the Avengers and what we see. And there's so much more out there. And I thought this film introduced us to that, and I think we're going to get that full on. And then we got more of it in Guardians 2, and I think we're going to really get it full on in Infinity War. Just when our universe and the rest of the Marvel universe kind of meets in Infinity War, is going to be really, really cool. Also, another big thing that stood out about this film is the soundtrack. It's the best, to me, it's the best soundtrack up until Black Panther. And I'd say they're equal, because Black Panther's soundtrack was really, really dope, but this one was really, really cool too. And the music and all the different scenes went perfectly with all the scenes and added to all the scenes. So that really stood out for me a lot in this film. Let me see. What did you guys think about Ronan? I thought the only weak thing about the film was that Ronan was basically just like a 1960s cartoon villain who was just angry for being angry and wanted to destroy a planet.
Yeah, that's always my issue with like these kinds of superhero movies. And it's something I said before, like that's honestly my only problem. There was a few like other minor little things that I'm sure we'll hit on later. But yeah, just the I'm gonna destroy the universe kind of person. I'm gonna take over the world or whatever. Like it never really resonated with me. It just doesn't make any sense. It's like one of the things I was talking to Mike when we were watching, it was like, if he's gonna destroy this planet, like, why would he destroy the planet that he's standing on? Like, what does he expect? Like, and I was like, if you just blow up this planet that you're standing on, like, you're gonna blow up too, dude. Like, yeah, you accomplished nothing.
I was like, I think he's just kind of gonna float there until someone picks him up. Or
yeah,
just imagine him just like floating through the space, waiting for like Nebula to come back.
Yeah, because if the point is that, like, as soon as you touch the stone to the Earth or the planet, it just completely obliterates the planet, like you're dead too.
And then his genius plan is to go right for Thanos after that. Like, all right, well,
yeah,
good luck with that.
So not a huge fan of Ronan as the villain. That was definitely the only weak.
But I don't know who else would do it. Like, who else would be the villain? Honestly,
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, what do you mean? There's a lot of characters in space that could be villains. the thing, it's not even that Ronan was the villain. And to me, it's not that big of a deal because this film was not about Ronan. Like a lot of films, the villain is on equal footing as the hero. So like when you watch Thor, Loki is right. He has equal billing or right after Chris Hemsworth. Tom Hiddleston does. So the villain matters. Or like Michael B. Jordan, he got almost as much press as Chadwick Boseman in the Black Panther because the villain mattered. When you see some of these villains, they get top billing. The villain in this film isn't that important because the purpose of this film is to introduce you to these characters and to this larger universe that the Marvel characters exist in. And in that sense, the film nailed it 100%. So I think Ronan was just a means to an end. It
didn't ruin the film for me at all.
It didn't take a thing away from the film for me. It was just the weakest part of the film.
Yep, I agree.
And it introduced the Power Stone. He was just a means to introduce the Power Stone, give you more background on Thanos and what his plan is, and to give a foil for our group of ragtag heroes to come together and become a team. And which is also another theme of the film, which is teamwork and family. Like this film is basically telling you the story of like how a family comes together and how different people from different backgrounds can work together for a common goal, even though they're still not benevolent people. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy are not 5 Captain Americas. Like it'll be interesting to see when they meet up with Cap, like how they interact because they will take the shortcut to get to where they need, which I like on how they present that. So I thought this film did a great job of that. Who's actually before I get to that, I thought did you guys catch how the scene where after they got arrested in the Nova Corps and John C. Reilly's going through like the bio of everybody, how that was basically the introduction to the audience of these characters?
Yeah.
Like, that was such a brilliant move to intertwine that into the film. And instead of giving you these long background stories of all these characters, he basically does it in like a 3-minute scene, and it's fucking perfect.
Yeah, I agree. It was, the whole, it was just a very different film, and I got that, from there. It was good.
Plus, you could pretty much put John C. Reilly in anything, and I'm gonna like it. So,
was he Denarian, or was he the
no
Denarian Day?
He was, yeah, he was the Nova Corps guy.
There's two of them. There's Denarian Day, then there's the mean guy.
No, he's not. He's the guy
not the mean guy.
He's the big dude with the curly hair, right? Yeah, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, John C. Reilly, he's great. I also thought the special effects in this film were amazing, especially for 2014, things are pretty good at that point, but everything looked so real and done so well. I thought Xandar looked amazing. Seeing the Nova Corps come together just looked like how they brought the ships together at the end of the film was amazing. I thought they did an unbelievable job with the special effects in this film. Did you guys think that, or did you think it lacked somewhere?
No, absolutely. Really, like thinking back to all the other films we've seen, they haven't really opened the door for as many special effects like this has. So this was really a chance for Marvel to like show their stuff and flaunt what they got. As like we can do some like really cool stuff. Like we have the technology now, we have the money, we have the ability to like make all these crazy scenes with ships flying and like all these different characters and like crazy makeup and costumes. So I thought it was a perfect introduction as to like, or a perfect way for them to show like what they can do. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and also there's so much I like about this movie, but they somehow Marvel, I don't know through what kind of voodoo or witchcraft they did, they got an unbelievable cast for this film.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, Chris Pratt's in there, who's a good actor, but Chris Pratt is not the top 3 actors in this film. Like, some fucking way they got Glenn Close to play Nova Prime. And Glenn Close is, like, as good as an actress as you can find on the planet. She's incredible. Then you got John C. Reilly in there. Then you have Michael Rooker, who's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. I totally forgot about him.
Michael Rooker playing Yondu. And here's the thing with Michael Rooker. Every time I see Michael Rooker, I think it's like it's this conflicting thing because he plays like I just think about him from Walking Dead, and I'm like, this guy's such a great racist, but he's like not a racist, and he's like such a great actor. But every time I see him, I think of Merle from Walking Dead. I'm like, God, but he's so fucking great actor. They got Bradley Cooper is a great actor. Like,
I heard when this movie came out, Bradley Cooper was not about it. He was like, he didn't like the role he was given until after he saw the success that it brought him. I don't know if that's...
Well,
I can see that.
I can see that. He was playing a talking raccoon. Like, he probably thought it was stupid, but they paid a good check. But I'm sure he enjoys it now. But the standout performance for me, and especially as somebody who was a wrestling fan, is Dave Bautista as Drax.
Oh, yeah. He's hilarious.
Dave Bautista has only had a couple small films before this. This was his big break. And he fucking nailed it. Like, that Drax character, I've seen the movie so many times, and I die laughing watching his lines over and over and over and over and over again. It's just his bland humor is just the funniest shit in the film. I just can't stop laughing. And it's even funnier in Guardians 2. But in this one, he just stands out as like this guy who you weren't expecting much from. Going into
yeah,
go ahead.
There's not really a character, like, I feel like there's a lot of characters like Rocket, who are these like skilled guys but don't really have a care in the world. There's a lot of Star Lords, arrogant like leader of the team. There's a lot of like arrogant flyboys, and then there's a lot of like Gamora is just ruthless, like powerful. And then there's like there's no other character I can think of that's like Drax in any other movie. It was just which is good. It's nice to have that.
One of my favorite lines, if not my favorite, of any of the movies that we've watched so far was, like you were saying, it's like that dry humor when he says, when they're making fun of him.
Yes, you're about to say the same thing I wrote down. Go ahead.
When he says like nothing
goes over my head. My reflexes are too fast.
My favorite line in the film is when Yondu is like, what did he say? Remember when what's the skinny Ravager's name? He's in the second one and he gets the arrow at the end. Yeah. It's played by James Gunn's brother. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yondu says something about like teaching his crew something, and then he just runs up. He's like, "Cameron's got to teach stuff." That's my favorite line in the movie. I don't know why, but I find that line funnier than it should be.
Oh, I love it. And the Drax character is the changed character. So even in the comic books, he was basically like retconned in like the 2000s into this character similar to what you see now, even though he's a little bit more ruthless in the comic books originally and a badass. And he's still a badass in the movie, but more presented as that Drax the Destroyer. But the original incarnation of Drax is a completely different character. He has a completely different look. He wears like a cape and it's like purple, and he's got like this, he looks like Dracula almost. And it's basically like, it's this weird story. Like, basically what it says in this biography, while driving through a desert with his wife and daughter, Arthur Douglas Carr is attacked by a spaceship piloted by Thanos, who thinks the human has seen him. His daughter Heather survives the crash and is adopted by Thanos' father, mentor, and raised on Titan. She later becomes Moondragon. Needing a champion to combat the threat from Thanos, Mentor and the Titan god Kronos captured Douglas' spirit and placed it in a powerful new body. He's rechristened Drax the Destroyer, and his sole purpose is to kill Thanos. That's basically his original story, and it's way different than the Drax that we see in the film and that's in the comic books now.
Also, the only two people that Thanos has said in the comics that he's afraid of are the Hulk and Drax the Destroyer, and he admits at some point in the comics, I forget which one, I could really dig it up if we need to, but he says that the only two people he's scared of losing a one-on-one fight with are the Hulk and Drax as well, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, and they try to change that in this film because Drax couldn't even fuck up Ronan. And Ronan has no chance to fuck with Thanos. So they kind of lowered his, like, unfuckwitableness, if that's a word.
I feel there's a lot of characters that, like, if you didn't nerf them a little bit, they would just be unstoppable. Like Doctor Strange, versus Thanos, I feel like.
Doctor Strange, here's the thing. His shit don't work against Thanos. Thanos is, like, in the movies, we haven't really seen Thanos' power. Like they've never really showed it to us, but he's one. But you allude to it, like in the film, he says they're like Ronan. Thanos is the most powerful being in the universe. What the fuck is wrong with
Yeah,
you?
even Ronan's guys, even Ronan's own guys, are like you cannot. Like,
yeah, no, you can't fuck with him. What is wrong with you? And even when, because you know how Thanos is ridiculous. Because when Ronan was like, I got the power stone myself, so I don't need you anymore, and I'm gonna fuck you up. And Thanos is like, all right, it just hangs up the fucking phone.
He was like, I would reconsider your current course.
He's not even worried about it. So what'd you guys think about how the team came together and them getting arrested and some of those scenes where you see the team kind of going through shit throughout the film and how they brought them together?
I liked it. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the prison scene. I think it kind of emphasizes the strengths that each of the characters has. Like, I mean, it obviously a great introduction to Drax and how he's just like this, seems like this mean, like ruthless kind of guy, but obviously we find out that he's got a reason for it. And like Rocket can just like MacGyver anything into bombs and like just break his way out of anything, just shows how smart he is. And then just like the innocence of Groot when he's like getting the battery from that thing and he's just like, here, I got it. Like you wanted it. Like I got it for you. And he just doesn't get it. And it was really funny. So I like the whole coming together scene. And I like how they kind of immediately had this understanding that like, if we're going to get out of this shit, like we have to do it together. And that's what kind of started the bond for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, you happy now? I'm standing. We're all standing in a circle, like a bunch of dogs. I mean, I don't really have very many issues with this movie at all. If I had to think of any, I know that there's one scene that does make me cringe a little bit, and it's between Gamora and Nebula. What part was it? Nebula says something that I just like the way she says.
Oh, when she fell off the ship.
Yeah, what did she say though?
She was telling Nebula, she's like, you can't go back to him like Thanos is crazy or something. And she's like, oh yeah, you're crazy too.
We're both crazy.
We're both crazy.
It's just the way she says it makes me.
I don't like Nebula at all.
It's so over the top.
I like Nebula because Nebula is a sympathetic figure to me. She's basically she's basically Rocket that going wrong. Like Rocket got fucking experimented on and fucked with, and he kind of like. He has this complex with him that comes out from time to time, you can tell, and they do a good job of showing that in the film. But for the most part, he tries to operate like that shit doesn't bother him, making jokes and just kind of being like an asshole. Whereas Nebula was fucking operated on by her own fucking father, basically, and experimented on, and she basically looks like a cyborg of some sort. And her sole purpose is to fucking serve her father, who her father constantly reminds her that he fucking hates her and loves Gamora better, and Gamora doesn't even like him. So
you've isolated my favorite daughter, Gamora.
So she's just like she's this sympathetic figure to me, and I think they kind of show that a little bit in here, but they explore that a lot more in Guardians 2.
I get the sympathy. I do feel bad for her. Obviously, like it's such a shitty situation that she's been in, but the character, I don't know, maybe it's just the acting. It just seems forced for me. I don't know.
Her character would make a lot more sense, I think, when you see Infinity War, because she's there to provide a contrast to Thanos. And her whole purpose is she is one of the things that shows you how fucked up Thanos is. And I guess when you see them together in the film, I think you may feel differently or you may not, but that is her purpose. And in the comic books, it's very interesting because, like, we're going to do a podcast on the Infinity Gauntlet series, but she ends up getting the gauntlet at one point during the series. And it's very interesting how she reacts when she gets the Infinity Gauntlet in the books. So I guess we'll talk about a few more things because, I mean, this film is not like really in depth like Winter Soldier or Civil War or something like that. It's just a fucking great, fun film. I guess I'll say, what was your favorite scene and what was your least favorite scene? I don't really have a least favorite. So I'll go first for once. I don't really have a least favorite scene, but I thought the dumbest thing that happened in the film was Drax calling Ronan on that fucking planet. Well, before we get to that, what did you guys think about? I know we talked about this in the after credit scene from Thor, but what did you think about seeing the Collector a little bit more?
I don't trust him.
And now, why would you?
Well, some people argue that he's not a bad guy. He just likes to have things. But, like, in the movies, they're kind of making him out to be a bad guy.
I mean, he's kind of a bad guy. He had a slave.
Yeah, he's a
slaver.
Slaves, and he collects people and animals and a bunch of other things. Like, he wanted to collect Groot.
When he died, it didn't make sense. And Groot was like, why not?
Yeah. But I wasn't, I mean, I get his purpose, kind of. I'm glad that they explained it a little bit more instead of just like going to this random person at the end of Thor. So I'm glad they kind of explained what his whole deal is.
It's interesting hearing that from you because you're not a comic books fan, but like for comic book people, like Marvel comic book fans, the Collector was like one of their favorite after credit scenes because he's such a, I don't want to use the word big, like he's this very important character, but he's a constant in the history of the comic books in the cosmic Marvel universe. But he's such like an interesting character throughout the years in the comic books that people, it's one of those things that you didn't think you would see on film, and then you see the Collector there, and it's like, that's such a comic book thing. Like the idea of a dude that collects shit from all across the universe, including people, animals, and artifacts, is like this ridiculous comic book like notion. But to see that actually in a movie and see Marvel go there, I think is an example of why Marvel is so successful and more successful than any company ever has been in making superhero films, because as opposed to trying to make superhero films palatable for the general audience and taking away some of the comic book aspects of the film to make it more of a drama or an action film, Marvel embraces the most comic book aspects of their characters and puts them on film in a way that allows normal people to understand the purpose of them, even though they can be very complex and ridiculous. And if you just read it in a vacuum, so I think Benicio del Toro's just got this fucking creepy ire to him that's very interesting. So what'd you think, Mike, about the Collector?
I like the Collector. I like seeing him, and I like all the little references that James Gunn throws into his vault. I don't trust him. I don't know. Also, so he has the Ether, or the, what's it called? Ether. The Reality Stone, Ether. And then his vault got destroyed. So I've always been wondering whatever happened to it at that point. But he's cool to watch. He's a great actor. I mean, he plays
the part really well.
He plays, he's this overdramatic, like, intense, like, high class, but sort of like shifty high class style going on. He's really fun to watch on screen. I just don't trust him,
you shouldn't trust him. And we're gonna get more of him in Infinity War.
Well, I think he's gonna die in Infinity War.
I hope he doesn't die. He still has the Power Stone, though. Oh no, he doesn't. He doesn't have the Power Stone. He has the
Yeah, but I think this is.
What was the one in Thor?
Listen,
Reality Stone.
Reality Stone. Thanos is gonna come after him hard, and he's gonna, do his thing.
Oh yeah, I mean,
that's like the easiest one for Thanos to get.
There's no army or anything.
There's no army.
You'll be surprised what the Collector has, but Thanos is going to get all the stones, so everybody's going to get fucked up. And that's why I can't wait to that.
I think the more he gets, the easier it's going to be for him to get the other ones. And I think the logical first choice would be to go for the one that the
first choice is the Cosmic Cube, because at the end of Thor Ragnarok, we see his ship show up right there where Thor is.
Oh, that's true. And Loki has it.
So Loki has it, yeah.
In the trailer, though, it looks like those people that he's stepping over are members of the Sanctum Sanctorum. So I'm wondering if he's already, at that point, got the Time Stone.
Well, how many times I have to tell you this, Mike? Do not pay attention to the trailers. Every movie, they put out these trailers, and you come talking, oh, my God, did you see the trailer? This is going to happen, this is going to happen. And it never happens that way in the film. which is we're going to talk about a lot more in Guardians 2 next week because that trailer didn't tell you a goddamn thing about that movie. So, Mike, what was your favorite scene? What was your least favorite scene?
My favorite scene is probably the part where they are all holding the Power Stone and they, don't die. My least favorite scene, probably just that awkward line or the cringeworthy line that Nebula says to Gamora when she falls off the ship. Like I said, it's kind of hard to find something wrong with this movie.
Big Mike?
Yeah, it's equally hard for me to find a favorite scene just because I like them all so much.
Yeah.
Like it was just an enjoyable movie from start to finish. I think I have like a favorite moment of the movie, which was when they boarded Ronan's ship and they're like making their way and they're waiting for Gamora to open up the doors, and they're like Nebula shows up and she's like trying to stop them or whatever, and then was it Rocket or who was it? Drax just like shot her and just
nobody talks to my friends that way.
And it was just like such a fitting and perfect thing for this movie.
Yeah.
It's like we do not do anything by the book. Like we don't give a fuck. It was like that Indiana Jones scene where it's just like, why would I fight you? I'm just gonna shoot you in the face. Like I just thought it was hilarious, and it was so perfect for this movie. But least favorite scene, I'd probably have to agree with you, like where Ronan just shows up on nowhere because Drax called him. Like I get the narrative there, where like Drax his only goal is to find Ronan and eventually Thanos to kill them. But like I think it was kind of placed there just because they had to place it there. Like they finally found out what the Power Stone did, and then they had it, so they needed some way to lose it, obviously, in order to continue the movie. So I think they just kind of placed it there. It's like, yeah, we'll just do this, and then it's whatever. So probably not my favorite scene.
Yeah. Also, I don't want to say I was disappointed in this, but I think we're going to get it in Phase 4. But we didn't actually see Nova, Richard Rider, even though we saw the whole Nova core, which is interesting.
Well, James Gunn hates Nova. Have you ever read his tweets?
What he said?
He hates the character Nova, and he says he doesn't want to put him in any films.
Really? I didn't know he said that.
But I don't know why he hates him so much. Let me look it up.
Yeah, so basically Nova is when the last surviving member of the planet Xandar's elite Nova Corps, Roman Day, is dying. He selects New York's high school student Richard Rider to replace him. Rider is given the uniform and powers of a Nova Centurion, but little instruction on how to use them. Calling himself Nova, Rider becomes a superhero fighting costume villains such as Condor, Powerhouse, Diamond Head, Corruptor, and Sphinx, and teaming with heroes such as Spider-Man. That's the original thing with Richard Rider Nova, and he's basically, the Earth version of the Nova Corps. He got the power, so he's a pretty big character in the Marvel.
Oh, here's what James Gunn said. I have his quote.
Yeah.
Says, I think certain people really like Nova. Quite honestly, I really don't care. He's not a favorite character. I don't know whether he's ever going to show up. I think they serve a purpose. He's talking about the Nova. No, now, so the separate quote about Nova is about the Nova Corps as well. He says, I think they serve a purpose. I like the Nova Corps. I just don't like Nova that much. He's okay, I just don't like that helmet.
He does wear that helmet. That is true. All right. So, yeah, I guess, any last thoughts on the film, and then what is your score of the film, starting with Big Mike?
No final thoughts. I mean, it's just, it's still my favorite movie. It's my favorite kind of movie where it combines really like witty humor, and like actual humor, not like forced humor where it's just, I don't know, funny for the sake of being funny. Like they put some thought into the jokes. But I'm gonna give it like a 9.8. I'd give it a 10, but I think Infinity War is gonna be reserved for the 10.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm gonna get as close as I can to that 10 because it's my favorite kind of movie. It's the best.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Big Mike. I don't have any lasting thoughts. There's no problems with this movie. I really enjoyed this movie. It's got a lot of rewatch value. Like I could sit down and watch this movie anytime.
Anytime.
And for the rating, I'll give it a 9.5.
Yeah, same for me. This was my favorite. This was my favorite film until Black Panther, and it's still not far behind that. And I gave that a 10, so this is a 9.7 for me. I love this film. I can watch it all the time. I've seen it multiple times a year, every year since it's come out. And I'm sure that will continue. I love every part about this film. Next week, guys, we are going to be doing Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which in the chronological order of the MCU films follows this right directly after this. So I'm looking forward to that because I actually love that movie a lot too. And thank you guys for listening to the show as well. Make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere you get the podcast at. Leave us a 5-star review. It helps us out a lot. We also are going to be doing Black Lightning recap this week. And we'll be doing our first Book of the Month club on the Avengers and New Avengers run by Hickman. So make sure you tune into those things and let us know. Give us any type of feedback you want on Twitter, Facebook, on the group, or anything you like. Thank you guys for listening. Talk to you later.